What's up YouTube? Welcome to today's video where I'm going to go over one of the biggest fixes for build diversity that's coming out in Path of Exile 2. Now a lot of people probably don't know about this fix that is coming out, but this is bound to be completely revolutionary. And most importantly, it's something different. Path of Exile 1, currently in its current state, is a little bit stale. A lot of people have played the game through and through, and there's just not much room for innovation anymore. But this one change is going to change it all. So right now, Path of Exile's combat system is extremely one-dimensional. And what I mean by that is Path of Exile has always been a game where you pretty much have one skill and you pretty much just hold it down and you run around the map and you absolutely destroy everything. There's no need for any cooldown and buff tracking. There's no need for using a lot of different skills. It's pretty much the way it is. And that's part of the allure of Path of Exile, though. A lot of people might say, oh, I want more intricate combat. I want to track my buffs. I want to kind of play this like an MMO where I have a rotation, but I don't really know if that's what Path of Exile actually has ever been or if it should be like that. Now, a lot of people really like builds that have one button like Ward Loop. They like Tornado Shot, and it is a lot more fun to play it like that. You pretty much can just chill out. You can zone out. You can pretty much just destroy the whole map without really having to pay attention that much. However, this has slowly started to change more and more with the advent of Divine Blessing, and then like self-cast Molten Shell is more prevalent now. Right now, Path of Exile has devolved into more and more skills. You have skills like Lightning Conduit, which relies on you using Orb of Storms to apply shock. And you have skills like Kinetic Blast, which also uses Power Siphon as a single target. So slowly over time, the combat has started to use more and more abilities. Right now, I can pretty much say that almost every single build would probably benefit from having more than one ability to use during a boss fight. You have people that are self-casting marks on boss fights. You have people using totems or Arcanist brand to trigger more stuff. And that's pretty much the game direction that GGG wants to go in. And you can definitely see that with the recent skills they came out with Galvanic Field and Lightning Conduit. And both those skills have some interaction where you have to use another skill beforehand. Now, this is a screenshot from Path of Exile 2, and the funny part about this screenshot is what kind of madman puts attack on left click? I don't really know, but I feel like a lot of these screenshots or game footage that GGG shows us, they are literally intentionally trolling us. And one more thing about Path of Exile combat in the past, one of the main things, and it kind of has been fixed by GGG a lot, was the fact that potion usage in PoE was pretty much one of the main stuff you're actually pressing. A lot of times you were playing the map in the past before instilling orbs, you were pretty much mashing 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 or pianoing your flash over and over again. So we have seen a huge shift in playstyle from that. Now, the problem with build diversity in PoE, a lot of people don't really know why build diversity is the way it is. They think that they should just buff all of the underperforming skills. Well, buffs are great and all, but some skills have some major problems, and players are locked into certain skills because they offer both great single target and clear. And for certain skills that don't have great single target, they have to use another skill, and we can see that in Righteous Fire with Fire Trap. So Righteous Fire is probably one of the best examples of what happens when you give a great clear skill a single target option. Now, this is mainly because I think you can get the Righteous Fire in an 8-link helmet or something like that, and then a Fire Trap in your chest piece. But if you look at all of the most popular skills in PoE, you have Tornado Shot, you have Lightning Strike, you have Spark, and even like Cast on Crit Forbidden Right. All of those builds are one-button abilities for one main skill that can double as both a clear skill and your single target skill. Like Tornado Shot, you don't really need to worry about anything else. You can maybe put down some Focus Ballista totems. But Tornado Shot is good enough to kill rares. It's good enough to kill bosses without having to use another single target skill. Now, Lightning Strike is the exact same way. Lightning Strike is egregious in the fact that it's amazing for clear, and its single target somehow is one of the best out of all of the melee skills because it's allowed to double hit, and you also have a Vol version. Now, Spark is another one. Spark is great single target. It's also decent for mapping. Cast on Crit Forbidden Right is the exact same way. Now, this is a pretty big problem purely in Path of Exile right now because there is a huge socket pressure in PoE. Now more than ever, socket pressure is insane. We have Divine Blessing, which takes up like 2 or 3 aura slots or gem slots. We have a cast when damage taken setup. A lot of time builds use Tornado on a cast when damage taken setup. Some people use a focus thing. And then you also have auras, which are pretty much needed to be linked to Enlighten because you have the Reservation Mastery removed. We have Mark on Hit with Sniper's Mark, and a lot of times that's linked to Enhance. And then we also have a movement skill with Flame Dash linked to Life Tap or something like that, or faster casting. And if we ever wanted to run a Lightning Warp setup, you have to use Lightning Warp, Swift Affliction, and less duration. So you can see right now, there is a huge demand for socket pressure. And a lot of times we are not able to run another setup. So we have one single target setup and there is no way you can run a clear setup. Now there are ways to run having 2 6-links if you use a bow and a chest piece. And there's also ways if you do an 8-link gloves and helmet or a 2-handed weapon. But the problem with that is that those methods are usually pretty expensive. Like it's prohibitively expensive to run an 8-link glove or 8-link helmet, especially early game. So that's why you get so little build diversity in PoE, and I truly believe that PoE 2 will solve this by doing this one change. And it is a pretty big change, and it's really going to flip the world upside down because Orb of Fusings are pretty much just gone. So what happens is that PoE 2 has a new skill gem system. It's completely different. So instead of socketing the gems directly into your gear or support gems, you will now have a separate menu that you add your gems to. So we still have the weapon slot, we still have the body armor slot, we still have the glove, helmet, and boots. So support gems are now socketed directly into skill gems. So right now, instead of like linking your armor piece or your weapon or your glove or helmet or boots, we are going to be linking skill gems. And that is a huge difference because we are now able to 6-link every single skill our character uses. So we can have a 6-link Flame Dash setup. So technically you could have a 6-link Spectral Helix setup for single target, and then a 6-link Frostblade setup for clear. Now this will allow more people, as I said, to have a single target setup and a clear setup. So you could may potentially, for instance, for Lightning Conduit, have a single target Lightning Conduit setup and then a clear setup with either Arc or Spark or Crackling Lance or whatever. So the sky is the limit, and this is pretty much something that also helps out players at the lower end of the spectrum, because a lot of players aren't able to afford a lot of the gear that allows them to have multiple 6-link setups or 8-link pseudo glove and helmet setups. And this will allow people to have more options of build diversity. And I do think that this concept is probably going to be a lot easier for players to figure out. A lot of newer players in PoE, when they start playing the game, they run into an issue. And this is something that I've seen a lot of new players run into, is that they pick up a piece of gear and they're like, how am I going to get the sockets? How am I going to get the colors to actually use this new piece of gear? And it's actually very difficult. It's very confusing. And a lot of times they just end up using the same piece of gear for a super long time because they can't actually replace the socket colors or get the right links. Now, PoE also has another problem, which is a movement skill setup right now. And I do think that movement skills don't really have that much diversity in options purely because we're so limited in our skill gem setup. So having more access to skill gems might allow us to use different movement skills like Lightning Warp. It might also allow the movement skills to feel a lot better because we can put faster attacks. Or if we use Leap Slam, we can use Endurance Charge on melee stun to generate Endurance Charges. So there's so much more diversity from this setup. Now, we kind of want to understand what was the original design philosophy for PoE. And it's actually kind of funny how much the game has actually changed. So in the interview during ExileCon, if you ever want to find out more, I will put a link to the ExileCon thing where they kind of go over what exactly their methodology was. So let's go listen to this real fast right here before we continue.
A decent build. And then it's the slots with the rares in them that are kind of the ones which you optimize and refine. So, you know, like people really didn't like 5 links being hard to get. It was just too restrictive. So we came to the realization that really only 6 links could be hard to obtain. And socket colors and links in general had to be a lot easier. So even with the parameters, though, when we released Path of Exile, though, it was really still too hard. Like, players really expected to be able to get 6 links, and the socket coloring situation meant it was just too difficult to change your items when you found new ones.
So you can see from here, they never intended players to get 6 links and perfect colors. They expected most players to be walking around in 5 links and having unoptimal colors. But as time goes on, they realized that this super restrictive playstyle was just not for the general population. And more players expected to get a 6 link. Now, this is obviously going to be the case because an extra link is somehow 30 to 40% more damage. So it's pretty much feels terrible if you're literally walking around and knowing that you could get 30 to 40% more damage super easily. Now, it is nice to see that they have changed the design philosophy a little bit better. And they also added a new UI for showcasing the details of your skill. So this is the new system that works. So you can see each skill, what exactly the DPS is right here. And then it goes into like the breakdown of the attacks per second, crit chance, accuracy, and everything, on hit effects, on kill effects. And this is something that is kind of an issue in PoE, is that the UI is really beginner unfriendly. And I do think that having a more modern day UI like this that presents the information better and doesn't have you going into PoB to figure out every single nitty gritty about the skill is going to be a huge revolution, and it's going to make the game feel much more beginner friendly. Now, so the way that this whole system works is that they are limiting us to having 9 or 8. They do say 8 in the video, but I do think they actually miscounted, so we can hear right here what they say about the primary skill gem stuff.
So all of the AI currently is just hard-coded, so like curses happen first and other skills happen later. But we're actually planning on having more AI options that you can have, that you can customize, like, what the totems do and when they cast what and so on.
So here they'll talk about.
And so, with this in mind, we were able to work out like how, once we've made all these sort of changes and worked out the whole meta skill concept, we were finally able to decide how many primary support gems your gear should have. And we landed on 8. So that's 2 each for your hand slots, or 4 if you're a two-hander, 2 for your armor, 1 for your helmet, 1 for your gloves, 1 for your boots.
Well, I know they said 8, but I actually was really confused. But I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it should technically be 9. So we have 9 primary skill slots. Let me know if I'm actually missing something, but I was really confused by that. So basically you get 2 for your armor, and then 2 for each one-hand slot, or 4 if you're using a two-handed weapon, 1 for your gloves, 1 for your helmet, and 1 for your boots. And then for certain unique, so if you have a tabula rasa, for instance, they mentioned that you would have 3 skill gem slots. So you can have like 9 primary skill slots. So this means that we can have up to 9 or 10 or 11 6-link skills. So that's actually crazy in the amount of diversity that we'll be able to get. And early on in the game, the color of the skill gem that you can put in is going to be limited based on the base you find. So if you find an armor base, you'll be using a red gem. If you find an evasion base, you'll be using a green gem. And if you find an armor evasion base, it can be red or green. So this should help out a little bit in the beginning of the game and help you make it more beginner friendly, because you'll be saying, oh, I have a blue slot, I can put it into this item that is blue slot, and I'll be building around energy shield for the time being. Now they do say later on you can adjust the colors with chromes. Now the big distinction here is that the links are determined by your skill gem. So if you find a fireball skill gem at level 1, it can only have potentially up to 2 links. Then once you get to level 20, you can have up to 3 links, 35, 4 links, and 56 links. So right now, this will be a complete change from how it used to be before, because we will be looking for skill gems instead of 6-link chess pieces. So we're looking for 6-link skill gems. And this is going to be a huge distinction, because Orb of Fusings will have no use. They're pretty much saying that they'll probably convert all people's Orb of Fusings into Jeweler Orbs. So you might want to get rid of that before PoE 2 comes out. Now, this does mean that there will be a huge priority in finding these 6-link skill gems, since we can't really link them, so we just have to find them on the ground. It's going to be a little bit interesting to see how that actually pans out. But overall, the big takeaway from this is that we have 9 6-link skills, so we can do so many interesting things and so many more interesting interactions that go beyond just, just having one primary damage skill. And there are meta skills. I don't know if people have heard, but you can socket like 5 auras into this one meta skill gem where you can turn on all your auras at once, which is probably one of my favorite parts of it, because we're able to actually just not have to worry about turning on so many auras when we die. Now, Orb of Fusing, as I said, will become useless. Now, this change will greatly increase build diversity and allow for so many different new build ideas to come out. I really can't wait. And most importantly, I do think that this will make it feel like almost a brand new game, and it's such a huge change that it will take a while to get used to, right? The fact that we are going to be looking at trying to get 6-link gems, and here you can see right here, this guy is Jeweler Orbing his Fireball gem in order to try to get 6 gem slots or whatever, or 6 support slots. Now, I do think that this also has the potential to make PoE combat much more engaging and strategical. We'll see what happens with the new skills. It does seem like PoE is going towards the direction of having multiple skill usages in combat and having more design combat decisions to make. And I do think that they probably got super inspired by what's it called, Elden Ring or some shit. But let me know down in the comments below if you like this new gem linking system, if you think it will solve all build diversity problems. I do think it will solve the majority of them, as we'll not have to focus or hyper focus on skill gems that have amazing clear and single target. But thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you find more mirrors, divines, exalted orbs than me, and see you next time. Bye!